Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video we're going to be going over S-Class Tyler and just doing a quick run through guide, just going over the kind of mods, weapon upgrades that I go for and how I would use him in an actual fight situation. So here we have S-Class Tyler. I have picked him up in both my regions, and it is because he is a fast character and my fast roster right now is not the greatest. So he's going to buff out my survival road attack teams, which is going to be quite nice. He will be usable in raids on attack and defense in my opinion. You'll have to mod him slightly differently. I think his weapon, you could probably keep 99% the same, regardless of whether you wanted to use him on attack or defense. But if you do use him on a defense with his main weapon, he is going to be quite a massive window. That's going to be the main issue for him. When it comes to his skills, we're only going to have a quick look over it. I did break him down in a bit more depth in his first look video. If you want to go and check that out, I just showed how all of his skills work. But when it comes to his skills, I would say definitely, max out his rush. His rush is good. That's the main part of him. He's going to be doing a lot of damage here. The active is generally going to be up to you. If you mainly use this guy on attack, I would say it's okay to upgrade because you're going to be in control of when you use it. I would not really use his active too often though, unless there was a particular penalty you needed to get rid of, let's say infection or something like that, then that would be absolutely fine. Otherwise, I would just hold off because it doesn't give any AP. You want to be rushing on this guy. You want to be doing damage because he is going to be doing quite a lot of damage. Now we're going to go across to his combat mods and we're going to be mainly gearing him for attack teams. So that means we're going to be making him very offensive. You can gear him differently for defense. Obviously you want to make him a bit more balanced on the defense and HP sets if you want to do so. But this is going to be mainly just trying to get him towards doing as much damage as possible or utilizing parts of his kit within his mods. Now the first three mods are kind of obvious in terms of where I would go with this character. And it would be attack on attack, attack versus tough, so he is doing more damage against tough characters. You're doubling down on the damage that he does because he will obviously do trait damage as well. And then stun resist is because if you do use him on a Lily attack team, you are going to be coming up against alert characters quite a lot as well. You basically want to mod his resist to what you think you're going to come up against the most. Stun resist is generally a good idea anyway. If you do come up against strong characters, for whatever reason, I wouldn't necessarily promote taking this guy in against strong characters because he is fast, but they will have stun on attack and they will focus him, so he's going to need some resist there as well. Now the last two mod slots are down to you, but I like AP drain on attack teams. He is a character that is going to do basic attacks quite a lot. He hasn't got an active that you're actually going to use more often, so you are going to be doing basic attacks more often than not, and that means AP drain is actually pretty useful. You can obviously reduce someone's amount of AP. That means they're not going to rush as quickly. There's no potential for them to get commanded in certain situations. AP drain is very, very good for them on an attack team. Now when it comes to the last mod, the wildcard slot, it's pretty much up to you what you want to do here. If you have maxed out his weapon properly, and we'll get onto the weapon options next, but his weapon you can get critical expert on, and that would be a good idea. But if you do not or have not got critical expert yet, I would definitely get a crit mod here. It's very important that he hits crits, so a crit mod will definitely make the difference. If you have got critical expert on his weapon, however, you do not want to get a crit mod here because you cannot get more than 100% crit. Once you've got 100% crit, any crit from any other sources just does nothing for him. He's not going to get extra damage. It doesn't increase his multipliers or anything like that. But you can improve his multipliers by equipping a critical multiplier mod. This means that his crit damage will be increased. The extra damage he does with crits will be increased. It's not going to be a huge bonus, but it is going to increase, and especially if you're hitting 100% crit rate, that means those basic attacks are going to be much more impactful. It will not work with his rush, however. He has got a basic hit rush. It isn't a multi-hit rush like a Priya or a Heng Yen, so there is no possibilities for that to actually crit. Other options could be attack while taunted or attack while impaired. If you are going to utilize someone who gives focus, let's say Ivan Nova as a leader, and you know that he's going to get taunted quite a lot, that will massively boost the amount of damage he's going to do, and that does work with his rush. Now you could decide to go with HP or defense in that stat slot as well, which wouldn't be a bad idea, but however, if we click view max, we can see his maxed out stats. He has actually got pretty good defense and HP as base, so he doesn't actually need to have HP or defense in that wildcard slot in my opinion. So personally I'd either go with taunt resist, so I'd actually stop taunts from actually happening, or attack while taunted if I was going to utilize focus on the characters like I said before. If you've got Kenny, the combination with Kenny and Tyler could be pretty good. We just don't really have an accessible leader yet where you can use them in the same team reasonably well, although Kenny has quite a fast rush, so you could potentially use him even if he wasn't getting a leader bonus. So this is how I would gear him to be offensive for an attack team, and this would basically mean that he's going to have better damage output, his rushes are going to hit harder, and the fact that he has quite good base stats once he is fully maxed out within the defense and HP, he's going to be fairly tanky already. Now when it comes to Tyler's weapon as a base, I would say it isn't the best when you want to use it offensively. You would want to change that 30% defense for attack, and you would want to change the medium bonus to AP when attacking to a very large bonus. However, the order in which you do these things is completely up to you, because if you do change the percentage defense to attack, you could potentially change it to 40% attack, then make it a 5-star weapon. You go for critical expert in the 4th slot, and then you put a huge bonus to AP when attacking in the 2nd slot. And the reason you do that when it's a 5-star weapon is it doesn't actually matter as much if the AP when attacking crits or not. It matters more if you get the attack critting or not, because you'll get a higher attack stat. The AP that he requires is at least very large. As long as it's at least very large, it's fine. Huge is okay. It's obviously better, but at the same time, it doesn't make as big a difference as 2% attack will in terms of the amount of damage he's going to deal. And then lastly, I just put another 5% on top on the attack. So at best, you'll have 45% attack, a huge bonus to AP when attacking, and in the last slot, you'll have critical expert. So it will look roughly like this, but hopefully Earl will actually be a nice guy and give you the crits where you need them. And this is going to be quite offensive. Obviously, you're going to be dealing a lot more damage with this. The attack bonus is going to increase the amount of damage output he's going to be doing with those basic attacks and his rushes. The very large bonus to AP means he can get his rush faster. The critical expert is just about the basic attack increases. It's a shame that this guy doesn't have a multi-hit rush in some way where you can utilize critical expert a little bit better, but it will increase the amount of damage he's going to do with those basic attacks. And there aren't too many good options with this character or any fast character realistically to get offensive boosts except critical expert in the 4th slot. He has a decent 3rd slot already. When dealing basic attack damage, critical hits, this character gets 75% attack for 2 turns. This is why you want him to hit those crits, because the first basic attack will be pretty nice, but the second one will be massively boosted. But that 75% attack boost also works with his rush. Okay, so we're going to be utilizing Tyler in this team where he's seen as the main damage dealer as well as alpha. We have obviously got a normalized character in AJ. This is actually a fairly decent attack team and is going to be quite good against teams that have Aaron as a leader, because it's going to be fast and tough characters on defense, and it's going to be pure trait damage for these characters. So that's exactly the type of team that we're going to actually be attacking. This is quite a buffed out team. They have got some pretty decent weapons and reasonable mods. A lot of these characters have got lots of stats. So we're going to just basically just try and slowly get through it and just see what we can do. Now you can see the collateral damage coming into effect there. He has got the 75% attack boost now as well. And with the next attack, because we can bypass the shield with Ivan Nova, we'll be able to attack anybody behind it that we so wish. And I'm going to select Shiva here. We're going to do a lot of damage. And then I can actually just command if I so wish. But I'm actually not going to do that. I'm not going to command, because we know this guy's disarmed. And we're just going to do this. Everyone's going to get rushes and stuff, so it's not going to be too much of a problem. I've still got the focus, so the taunt from Shiva, the taunt from Princess did nothing. And I'm going to have to start normalizing so I can get this rush off. And we're going to see what this does now. I'm going to debuff... Who should I I think I'm going to debuff her, because I actually want to try and take her out. And I think I should be able to. Lots of damage coming out from Alpha here, but I think she just got reflected. Did she get reflected? Nope, she didn't. Now we're not taunted for the next turn. And then if I rush here, it should be quite a lot of damage. Got the extra attack. Massive 14,000 damage onto Frost, but the Frost is obviously extremely tanky. And what we can do is we're going to just try and finish off the Frost, and then we'll try and take out Aaron as well. Yeah, this is actually pretty nice. And obviously I would be taunted now because you still see some normalize on some characters, but because I took out Princess. It's not going to be the case anymore. And from here, it's just basically slowly but surely get rid of the last character, which we're going to do. So you can see the stats at the end in terms of the amount of damage, that output that you can get. Obviously, Alpha massive debuff is going to help Tyler in this situation. And the amount of, we basically made him glass cannon, very, very offensive, getting a lot of damage in. We could make him more offensive by getting the crit multiplier in there to sort of basic attacks are higher, but I mean, it's up to you. You can test it out. You can see how well it works when you're using it. It's not super fast against this team. It was actually a pretty tanky team. It actually had some dangerous specialists in there that I had to obviously neutralize. Having a normalized character in AJ makes a big difference. Princess can do the same sort of thing. So offensively, with an offensive weapon, he can do pretty good. You could see his attack stat wasn't that high at base, and that's because he has quite low attack stat from the get-go, 4.5k. He's also not going to be using a 1535 weapon in his own hand, so he's not going to be getting an extra boost from that, but he will get the boost from potentially 2 1535 weapons from a leader and someone else who is standing next to him, and that's what he got. I think he got up to around about 13,500 damage, which is okay, which is good. That's 75% attack boost from the basic attacks, though, he's going to get from turn 1, and he's going to have it forever pretty much. The turns where he rushes, that's going to be the turns where he's going to obviously lose out potentially, but that's only one turn, and he should get every time he basic attacks, so, and it lasts for 2 turns, so he should have it every time he basic attacks after the first turn, so his damage output obviously is going to be massively enhanced because of this, and it kind of makes up for that lack of 15% to self on the stat with the 1535. Critical expert in his hands is going to be great. I do see the collaterals as just a bit of a bonus. You could see it did a bit of damage, but it's mainly the targeted damage is going to be huge just because of the crit damage he can do. And obviously collateral damage cannot crit. So that's my ideas on S-Class Tyler in terms of how you can gear him out with his mods, what you should level up in his skills, and the kind of weapon upgrade you should go with him. You can see that he can be utilized against certain teams quite well. I think he's ideal to use against Aaron defense teams. You could potentially use him against peak ones as well, but I think he's going to be running into some issues when it comes against the really tanky alert characters. And if you do want to run him against alert teams, you might want to actually use attack versus alert in those sort of circumstances. Once you come up against the harder Aaron teams as well, where it's got the likes of Tanya, Bydrazita, these sort of fast characters as well that can get very tanky, you might want to switch out the attack versus tough to attack versus fast as well. His damage output will obviously be increased versus those fast characters that way. But regardless, if you don't want to use him in raids, the mod setup I showed and the weapon setup is ideal for him to go into Survival Road. He's going to be very, very offensive, and he's not going to take too much damage just based on the fact that his base defense and HP stats are half decent. But if you've got any ideas for S-Class Tyler, do let me know in the comments. Is there something that I didn't see? This was an early guide at how to approach Tyler in terms of boosting him up as a damage dealer on your roster. I want to thank you very much for tuning into my video, and as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.